Do you think that mass media exposure has an influence on how a child develops speech?
It has an influence. In fact, the exposure of mass media and even television and even phones, mobile phones and smartphones has a big impact on children. But the biggest challenge we have is that the true impact of technology always takes many, many years before it is known. Right now, smartphones are believed to cause addiction, not just in children, but even in adults. And in today's world, very many mothers, when they come to their children to the clinic, the only way they can get a child to become quiet is to give them a smartphone. Yes. Yeah, so this phone is now the babysitter. And you can find a 1 or 2 year old child who can go through the phone, open applications, go to a game, even play the game, and they can't talk anything. And that kind of electronic exposure is actually hindering speech development and other disorders.
And is it possible for a child to develop language and then probably along the way develop a difficulty and they lose speech?
That happens, and that is common. And they're basically, the two commonest reasons for that is one is hearing loss. If a child who was hearing well then loses their hearing through an illness, they actually lose speech completely. Because up to the age of 5, the language that a child picks up is not yet formed permanently in the brain in the form of proteins. It is still stored largely electronically, and therefore if the child loses the ability to hear, they actually lose language and they lose the ability to talk. So the moment the child begins to regress in language and in speech, that is a very serious warning sign that intervention should be done. Nowadays, also the commonest cause of that speech regression is autism. Because now we have, in Kenya, 1 in 50 children is autistic. In America, autism and attention deficit disorders are almost 1 in 10. So there's an epidemic of autistic disorders.
Is there a reason why autism spectrum disorders are more common today?
It's not known. A lot of research is going on, especially in Europe, even in parts of China, but mainly in America, to try and see why. But, the way you look at things in medicine is that if you're going to change somebody's life, especially a child's life, there are only 3 ways: either what they eat, or what they breathe, or what they're injected with. Yeah, because many of these children who are autistic, if you look at the previous generation, their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents, they didn't have those issues. And the incidence has been increasing tremendously. So there must be something new in the environment, or something we are injecting them with, or something we are giving them that is causing this disorder, since we are not there previously. A lot of research is going on, but up to now, people are not certain. Yeah, from a scientific point of view.
All right, let's look at the management of speech difficulties.
Yes.
When a child is brought to you and
Yes.
make a diagnosis of a speech disorder,
Yes.
what next?
And first and foremost, we look at the hearing, because if somebody is not hearing properly, it doesn't matter what intervention you make, it's not going to work. You have to solve the problem. So one of the first things we actually do, examine the ear. We look at the ear canal. Does it have wax? Does it have an infection? The eardrum, is the eardrum actually proper, working well? And we do various tests, things we call tympanometry to measure the ear pressures, audiometry, or ABR, or others we call acoustic emissions, to try and actually find out what is wrong. In the event the hearing system is perfect, then we go to one further step. We have what we call a neurological assessment by neurologists. And then we even CT scan, X-rays to make sure the brain is okay. Yeah, from there, then we pass them on to what we call speech and language pathologists, who are specialists who are trained to actually figure out exactly what kind of hearing or what kind of speech disorder it is. And then from there, they often end up with speech therapists and language therapists who then try and correct the disorder, as long as there's no physical cause for it. If there's a physical cause, we correct the physical cause and then pass them to the speech and language pathologists.
Okay, and as we wrap up, what pointers would you give to a parent so that they would check and see whether the child has, a speech difficulty?
One thing I'll tell parents, especially modern parents, because unfortunately they're both busy, often both the father and the mother, they're working, is that they have to take an interest with the child, no matter how limited a time they have with the child. They have to talk to the child, they even have to examine the child. Often when children are brought to hospital and then we were treating them, you find many parents now, they don't know their children. A child may even have an nappy rash. The mother doesn't know because she's never changed the child in months, or maybe the child snores. And the mother will tell you, I only discovered this child snores when the maid went on leave, or my maid took off and I had to sleep with the child. So parents have to really realize that you can delegate, authority, but you can never delegate responsibility. The child is your responsibility. And the most important duty of any human being who has a child is to look after the child. Even when you go to work, your work is principally to help food and shelter to enable you bring up the next generation. So don't neglect that. Then, of course, make sure the child has stimulation. Stimulation means people are talking to the child, people are playing with the child, because if you ignore a child, the child withdraws to themselves. And they can have psychological issues which become very, very hard to solve. So you have to interact with the child, let them take an interest in the world around them. Then, of course, once the child is old enough to go to school, try and get them to school so that they learn social skills, they learn interaction. So interest in the child is the most important. Then, of course, you should have an idea, when should a child be saying mama, baba at 1.5 years? Whether should they be able to have 2 or 3 word sentences at about 2 years? By 2.5, they should be able to talk to some extent. By 3 years, your speech should be clear to everybody and understandable even by people who do not know the child.
Thank you so much. I am keen to ensure that the parents get this message, and Dr. Mbira Gikonyo summarizes it for today and urges us to have a keen interest in our children despite being in a very busy world. Thank you.